From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 Show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 Show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
All right, welcome into episode 35 of the 301 Show. Fantastic episode on tap today. We got a lot to get into. The Vikings start their actual games this week, playing a Monday Night Football in Chicago against the Bears. And then the Twins continue to struggle. They look like they're going to be aiming for a top 3 pick in the next draft. The Lynx continue to roll opponents as they get prepared for the playoffs. They are already in the playoffs. They clinched a playoff spot. And then the Wild and Wolves make their way to the regular season start and training camp start here as we get prepared for the fall, which is the best time of the year for the sports world. All right, now moving on to the Wolves Den. We've got some news out of the Timberwolves, and then the Lynx, again, just continue their dominant regular season. They are looking to break the record for the most wins in a single regular season by a WNBA team. That caveat there is there are 4 more games now that they can get wins from, but they are looking to break that record. This year, I believe they need to win at least 3 of 4 or all 4 of the remaining games they have to win to break the record. But if they can do that, which I definitely think they can because of how good they have been this year, they will be statistically, historically, the winningest team in WNBA history. So they are, again, looking to make history this season. And then hopefully finish it off with a win in the championship in the playoffs. So obviously that one is more important. So if they can do both, that is absolutely fantastic. Speaking of the Lynx, they went 2-1 in the past week, little over a week. The record improves to 32-8. They are still the number 1 team in the WNBA as they have, again, statistically locked up the best record in the WNBA. They will have home court advantage throughout the playoffs because of that, as long as they keep winning in the playoffs. They are the number 1 team in points for per game, field goal percentage, and 3-point shooting percentage. At 87 points for per game, 47.4 shooting percentage, and 38.4 3-point percentage. They are number 11 in free throw percentage at 76.7. Rebounds per game, 34.2, which is 6th. Blocks per game, 4.9, which is 2nd. Again, the turnover differential is getting a little bit better here. Still not where you want it at all, but it is getting better. They are at minus 1.9 turnovers, turnover differential per game. That is 12th. So they are finally under that -2 mark that they had been kind of holding strong at for like a month and a half, maybe even 2 months at this point. But they have gotten below that, and again, there's only 4 games left, so that number is not going to change too much in the last 4 regular season games. But that is something to watch for these playoffs. As for points against per game, they are 76.7. They have dropped from that number 1 top spot to the number 2 spot in that category. Field goal shooting percentage against is 42.2. That is tied for 2nd lowest in the WNBA. The 3-point shooting percentage is 33.4, which is 8th. Rebounds against per game is 33.2, which is 7th. And then they are only getting blocked 2.8 times per game. That is 2nd in the WNBA. if we look back at their past week, like I said, it's been a little bit over a week, but they went 2-1. They lost to the Seattle Storm 93-79. They beat the Connecticut Sun 94-70, and then they beat the Dallas Wing, Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings 96-71. If we look ahead here, they play on Thursdays, tomorrow as I am recording this, at 9 p.m. against the Las Vegas Aces. They then play at the Golden State Valkyries at 7:30 p.m. on Saturday the 6th. So they got an off day Friday. They play Thursday and Saturday. So yeah, they faced Collier's back. She has been rolling since she came back from injury too. They needed her back. This team is very good without her, but it's just to another level when she is on the court. So fantastic to see her back in time for the playoffs. She can get. She'd missed about or a little under a month, but she can get tuned back in the last 9 or so regular season games that she has been playing in. She's got 4 more left. And yeah, they can put final touches on the regular season and do final tune-ups for what actually matters, and that being the WNBA playoffs. Over on the Timberwolves side, one big massive piece of news, which I think kind of saw this coming with the ownership news, the ownership transition from Glenn Taylor to Mark Lurie and Alex Rodriguez, but it was made official a few days ago. Tim Conley does opt into his final 2 years of his contract. He was given a raise last year, maybe a bonus. I don't know what they officially called it, but they gave him some sort of raise last year to entice him to move the opt-out back 1 year, and that did work. I think it worked out well for both parties. It gave the Wolves a chance to figure out the ownership group. It gave Conley a chance to figure out who his boss was going to be. And I think he looked like he would rather work for Conley he is Conley. He would rather work for A-Rod and Lurie than Glenn Taylor. So if Glenn Taylor had retained ownership of the Timberwolves and Lynx, obviously Conley just working for the Timberwolves, then he would have left and opted out of his final 2 years. And now that I'm thinking about this, they did make another big move. I will pull it up here. I don't have it written down. But there was another massive move that happened here that we have not talked about yet. At least I don't remember us talking about him. Let me go back. No, last week we talked about the nationally televised and key games of the season. So the Timberwolves have have agreed to a deal with Matthew Caldwell, who is the or at least was these past few years has been the president of business operations of the Florida Panthers. He is accepting a 10-year deal as the CEO of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so basically what that means is Tim Conley and Matthew Caldwell will basically be at the same level, reporting to A-Rod and Lurie, and those two will be Caldwell is basically the head of the business operations, and Conley is the head of the basketball operation. So Conley is the one that makes that, like the trades and the signings and makes the roster. And he has a team that works for him and helps him make those decisions, but he's the one that has the final say on all of those decisions. on the other side, Matthew Caldwell will be the one making all of the business operations, so tickets and in the community stuff. So Matthew Caldwell will be doing the business operation and the PR stuff, and maybe another team in this Twin Cities area needs to take a note out of that and help repair that position. But I absolutely love this move. The Panthers, obviously, the easiest way for teams to have great business operations is to win. That obviously is a massive part of the business operations too. But Caldwell isn't doing the basketball operations. So what he does is on the business side. And if you look at the Panthers, obviously they've won back-to-back Stanley Cups, but they also have absolutely fantastic they are a very well-run organization, and a lot of that has to do with Caldwell. And if he is taking over the Timberwolves, you have to think that this team that with A-Rod and Laurie is in a pretty good position is going to be getting better. So they according to this article I'm reading here from the Associated Press, he said that the team announced the deal on Wednesday. This was a week ago today, I believe. And Caldwell will begin overseeing day-to-day business operations and high-level strategic initiatives for the Timberwolves, Lynx, and the G League's Iowa Wolves on September 2nd. So that was just this past, I believe it was Monday, was September 2nd. So he is now in charge of that. So that's fantastic move. There's a quote here from Caldwell. It said, "I love the NHL. I've enjoyed hockey, and I'm a big fan of it. But the NBA is just a much bigger global platform. I really believe in Mark and Alex and their vision and what they're trying to do. They're trying to make Minnesota best in class." So again, if obviously you got to, obviously take it at its face, that's a fantastic view to take on this team that was poorly run with its old ownership. So absolutely fantastic to see them making, again, what I consider consistently great moves since they have taken over even, partial ownership of the Timberwolves. Speaking of great moves, we've got predictions coming up here. I had a couple predictions come off the board this week. I had 3 come off the board. Got 2 of them right. We'll start with the wrong. Said the Lynx will win the next 2 games. They did not. The Seattle Storm game was one of those next 2 games. So they lost one of those next 2. So that was incorrect. But I did say the Lynx will score 90 plus at least one time in those next 2 games. And they did. They beat the Connecticut Sun 94-70. And then I said Tim Conley will return to the Timberwolves in 2025-26. And I said this before the ownership situation was figured out. So I was kind of a parlay of, Glenn Taylor will not be the owner and Tim Conley will return, which I think if Taylor was the owner, there was no chance he was going to return. So that was basically just another way of saying Mark Laurie and A-Rod will be the owners of the Timberwolves. So I've got the other one up here. I realized I made another spelling error on here. So just Conley. I have a Tim Conley trade prediction, and I spelled Conley wrong. I spelled it with 2 N's and 2 L's. So ignore that. But I said Tim Conley makes at least 3 trades before the trade deadline. Also realized the E is in the wrong spot. So, but just know Tim Conley is going to make at least 3 trades between now and the NBA trade deadline. They've got 4 more games left. the Lynx they will win at least 3 of the final 4 games. And then they do play the Indiana Fever in one of those games, and they will hold Caitlin Clark to under 20 points. So if this hits 20 points exactly, this is incorrect. All right, moving on to Rinkside Rundown now. The Wild's nationally televised games came out. They have 16 nationally televised games between ESPN, ESPN Plus / Hulu. Those are on a simulcast on both. TN and TNT are the 3 that they have nationally televised games on. And a couple of them, they play at Dallas on Thursday, October 14th at 8:30 on ESPN. They play at home against the Carolina Hurricanes on TNT on Wednesday, November 19th. They play Chicago on ESPN Plus on Wednesday, the 26th. Let's see here. They play Detroit on the January 22nd, and then their next one is against the Tampa Bay Lightning on March 3rd on TNT at 8:30. But yeah, they play Chicago quite a few times on nationally televised TV. They play them 3 times. 3 of the 4 times they play the Chicago Blackhawks, it is on TNT or ESPN Plus / Hulu. And both games they have against the Tampa Bay Lightning are on nationally televised games, both of them on TNT. So again, cool to see. I think that's very much the Kirill Kaprizov effect. They play in Dallas to start their nationally televised season and to end it too. They play the first nationally televised game in Dallas on ESPN at 8:30 the 14th, and then they play Dallas again on ESPN Plus / Hulu on Thursday, April 9th at 8 p.m. Some, again, Kirill Kaprizov effect there. People want to see the best players play in the on national TV. The NHL wants to highlight the best players. And if you look at all the teams they're playing, Dallas, very, very good team all around. Obviously, they still got big names on that team. They got Jason Robertson. They got Tyler Seguin. They got Jamie Benn. They got the big name in net, Jake Ottinger, playing his hometown team. He's from Lakeville. So, yeah, big names going up against each other there. Then they play San Jose. Who again, young stars, Macklin Celebrini. They got Will Smith. Again, yeah, just some young guys that they want to highlight against the Wild and Kirill Kaprizov. Also, if you remember last year, San Jose was that game where Joel Eriksson Ek had a hat trick, and I believe Macklin Celebrini also had a hat trick that game too. That final was 8-7. But yeah, another fantastic matchup that they are, highlighting. The NHL is highlighting. Again, they play Carolina. That Sebastian Aho. They got the just massive names on Carolina too. Chicago Blackhawks with Connor Bedard, obviously, and massive names there. They play the Nashville Predators. Roman Josi, again, massive name in the NHL. They got Steven Stamkos, who, again, didn't play too well last year, but, again, is still a NHL legend, Steven Stamkos. They got Jonathan Marchessault. They got Roman Josi. I mentioned Roman Josi, but they got UC Saros in that. They played the Detroit Red Wings with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond, too. So some just again games against massive Tampa Bay Lightning, Nikita Kucherov, Andrei Vasilevsky, Victor Hedman, Colorado, Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. They play Toronto on a nationally televised game with Austin Matthews and John Tavares. They don't have Mitch Marner anymore, but they still got Willie Nylander. So they play the Florida Panthers, who are the defending Cup champions with Kachuk, Reinhardt, Marchand, Huberdeau. Excuse me, not Huberdeau. Huberdeau was traded. They have Ekblad still on that team. Huberdeau was traded for Kachuk. But yeah, just massive, massive team, like massive brands that have superstars on their team, and they want to see the superstars going up against each other. So again, fantastic to see that the Wild actually have a superstar that they want to show off. And then one thing that we saw this past week was Pat Maroon, former Wild player, just retired with the Chicago Blackhawks. He was asked about Brock Faber recently, and I want to read you his direct quote so you can see or hear exactly what he said about the Maple Grove native. He said, one thing about Brock Faber that is really impressive is his defensive side of the game. He's a great stick and is a mean kind of defenseman. He isn't the tallest guy, but he always finds ways to get in there. I want to see him more I want to see more of the offensive side of him. I think he has in his bag. He can find ways to get 50, 60 points in the NHL. We know he can play defense. We know he is a good skater, can break out pucks on his own. I'd like to see more offense out of him, which again, Brock Faber is in his third full season in the NHL. Like, these things are going to take time to develop. But again, he's right. If Brock can be a 50, 60 point guy, that's going to be massive coming from this blue line with, some aging guys like Brodin and Spurgeon and obviously Zach Bogosian. But if he can be that anchor for the young guys, the guys that are actually younger than him, like David Jiricek and Zeev Buium too, then those guys are only going to grow. Those guys are only going to get better. So if Faber, like Maroon says, if he can be an offensive side, that takes some of the pressure off of these other guys to be expecting to perform right away in the NHL. So, love to hear that about Maroon and somebody that's actually played the game giving Brock Faber praise. On the Minnesota Frost side, they are only really big news is they are running off-season camps for kids at the Tria Rink. At the Tria Rink is the practice facility for both the Wild and the Frost. They share the game day facility and the practice facility. So they're running off-season camps. A lot of the players are here in Minnesota, so they are getting some work done with kids while working out themselves. So good to see that for the Frost. On to predictions. Again, didn't have any come off the board this week for Rinkside Rundown. Still at 17 total correct predictions out of 58 total predicted for 29%. And if we go back over here to the predictions, I do have predictions coming on the board, and we've got 3 more coming on the board. I said Brock Faber will get Norris Trophy votes for best defense. That Norris Trophy is the best defenseman in the NHL. He will get Norris Trophy votes in the 24 or 25-26 season. Usually they post, and I'll phrase this as Brock Faber will be confirmed to get Norris Trophy votes in 25-26. So if they only provide the voting for like the top 5 or something, and Faber's not on there, but there's more people that got votes, we need to be able to confirm it. So I will say that it will be confirmed that he got at least one Norris Trophy vote in 25-26. Second prediction is that Philip Gustafson will record a shutout in October of 2025. So sometime in the first month of the regular season, Philip Gustafson will record a shutout. And then third and final prediction of episode 35 for Rinkside Rundown is that Taylor Heisey will lead the PWHL in goals in 2025-26. So the entire league, not just the Frost. She will lead the entire league in goals. All right, moving on to Target Field Talkers now. The Twins had a very up and down past week and a half. They sit at 62 and 76. They are still fourth in the AL Central. Looks like that's where they are going to finish. I really don't think they're going to drop 12 games in the standings to finish fifth, because the White Sox are the 12 games behind them right now. So I really don't think they're going to drop. Mathematically, it is possible. Realistically, it is not. They are 11th in the AL wildcard race. That means only the Chicago White Sox are below them in the AL. As for the batting average, they are tied for 24th at 238. On-base percentage is 21st at 311. Slugging percentage is 397 at 17th. On-base plus slugging is 707 at 18th. Runs scored, they are 581 runs scored, tied for 23rd. Home runs, they have 163 at 14th. So they will be officially at over one home run per game on average by the end of this season. Walks, 423 walks, tied for 19th. Strikeouts, 1,142. That is 15th. Stolen bases, 80. That is 19th. Fielding and pitching rankings, they are 4.48 ERA, tied for 23rd. The whip, the walks plus hits per inning, that is how many base runners are the pitcher's fault. Per inning pitched is 1.31. That is tied for 18th. Strikeouts, they have 17th fewest in strikeouts, 17th most in strikeouts, which is 1,128. They have the third fewest walks, is what I was meant to say on this one, is third fewest walks at 378. They were the number one team with the fewest walks for most of the season, but they have been, dropping the ball, pitching balls more since the trade deadline. As for errors, they have committed 64 errors on the season. That is 12th. Fielding percentage is 986, tied for 15th. Looking back here, 3 games in Toronto. They had 3 games in Toronto at the beginning of last week. That is, they lost the first game 10-4. They won the second game 7-4, and then blew an 8-5 lead in game 3 and ended up losing 9-8. They played 3 games in Minnesota against San Diego. They won the first game 7-4. Game 2, they were up 3-1. And then the Padres scored 7 runs in the 7th inning, and the Twins lost 12-3. So the Padres scored 11 unanswered runs in Game 2, including a 7-run 7th inning outburst. But the Twins would respond the next day. It was another Joe Ryan masterclass. It seems like he's the only pitcher that's been consistent all year and not hurt. They won 7-2. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 0 earned runs, hit 8 strikeouts, and 1 walk. They have now played 2 games against the Chicago White Sox of their 4-game series. On Monday, they lost game 1 6-5. That was a day game because of the holiday. That is also why I didn't record one of these episodes on Monday. I will probably record one of these episodes not on Monday next week, because I want to get a recap of the Vikings-Bears game happening on Monday. So just be tuned for that. So game 2 last night against the White Sox, there were an announced attendance of 11,721. From the pictures I saw, it did not look like there were 11,000 people in that stadium. And again, the announced attendance is always the number of tickets sold, not the number of tickets scanned. So 11,000 is the amount of tickets that they sold to that game. And I bet you a lot of those are season ticket holders. I guarantee you there's not 11,000 people buying, almost 12,000 people buying single game tickets to the Twins at this point in the season against the White Sox on a Tuesday night, especially with school having started and it being a school/work night too. They're not doing that. But as for the result of this game, they were up 3-1 after the fourth. Stop me if this sounds familiar. They're up 3-1 after the fourth inning and proceed to lose 12-3. The only difference between this and the Padres loss 12-3 when they were up 3-1 is the White Sox did not have a 7-run seventh inning. So you can't blame it on just one bad inning. They just chipped away over the course of the last 5 innings last night. We're looking ahead here. They have 2 more games against the White Sox. As I'm recording this is a Wednesday. They have a game tonight, and they have a game tomorrow night, Thursday. And then they go to KC and play 3 games in Kansas City against the Royals Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So a couple of things about this team. I don't know if I really need to say much more than I already have on this show about the Twins. I have made my frustrations clear with this team and this ownership group, because if you look at these, again, last night, may have been on the colder side, but like this is still like pretty good. Like it's fall weather, and they like should be getting more than 11,000 people in the stadium. And they, like this stadium, if you go back to 2019, when they had the Bomba Squad, you go back to 2 years ago when they won the first playoff series in years. This team, they were still able to sell, again, against the Washington Nationals. I was working at Target Field in 2019 during the Bomba Squad year, and there's 25,000 people there on a Tuesday against the Washington Nationals. The Nationals, the Nationals were pretty good that year. They won the World Series, but historically they had not been a very good team since Harper left, and it's not a team that many Twins fans want to show up for because they think it's going to be an easier win. And they just still 25,000 people showed up because they were like, well, we might see some home runs. The Twins don't have that this year. The Twins don't have a storyline of, well, we might see X, Y, or Z. We might see the starting pitcher, throw 20 strikeouts. They don't have the guy that and maybe that's Joe Ryan, but again, that's once every 5 days. Half the time he's pitching on the road. So they don't have the consistent storyline this entire season like they did in the Bomba Squad year with we might see 7 home runs tonight. They don't have that. And I don't blame fans for not showing up. You can't blame fans for not showing up for this team. Because and I don't blame the players either. Because what else, there's nobody else to blame but the front office and the ownership at this point. And some of the blame that's on the front office should be going to the ownership because they were told they had to sell at the deadline by ownership. So the ownership for who's to blame this season is 75 to 80% in my mind to the ownership, the Pohlads. It's 80% we'll say it's 80% to the Pohlads. It's 15% to the front office. We'll say 13% to the front office and 7% to the actual players on the field for underperforming. The players aren't completely blameless in this. But if you're going to blame one person, one group, or one person, it's the ownership. And that's what's frustrating about fans. I'm looking at the weather here. It's 62 degrees here in Minneapolis. And 62 isn't too cold. You might need a jacket if it gets, any colder than this if you're going to the game tonight. But you can't blame the weather for people not showing up at this point. It's the fact that you aren't doing anything to bring fans in. Now, what I think they should do, and Pohlads, or whoever is going to own the Twins in 2026, you can take this and run with it and claim it as your idea. What you should do is bring back, call it, you have the dollar dog night on Tuesdays, but what you need to do every Monday home game, you do Metrodome Mondays, where all concession prices are back to what they were at the Metrodome. And maybe it's, you spin a wheel and it's what year at the Metrodome the prices are, or something like that. Like, start some sort of promotion where it's Metrodome Mondays and all the concession prices are reduced. That would get fans in the stadium. If you said we get a couple dollar beer, couple dollar drinks, couple dollar, food, you get a hamburger for $2, whatever it is, that would get fans in the stadium. But I guarantee you the Pohlads aren't going to do that because they're too worried about, quote unquote, right-siding the business and making money than this team actually winning. So it's again, like I have said all year, it is absolutely frustrating to see where this ownership group is and where this team is. I don't think it's going to get better until the Pohlads sell. I really don't. So, couple of other things that happened. Well, one other thing that happened, and then another thing I saw about rumors about this offseason. So one thing that happened that this past week, it was on Sunday against the Padres. Byron Buxton hit his 29th home run. That is now his new career high. So congratulations to Byron Buxton, the Buck Truck. So he has a new career high in home runs and will only extend that lead with the more home runs he hits the rest of this season. And then the rumor I have that I've seen floating around is that the Twins should trade Pablo and Joe Ryan this offseason. I think if you do that, I think if you trade Joe Ryan, for sure, if you trade both of them, for sure, you need to do a full-on rebuild. Like, I don't think this team is going to win without at least Joe Ryan, and definitely won't without both of them. So you need to do a full-on rebuild if those two guys are traded. So do you want to do a full-on rebuild? I don't think so. I think this team on paper is better than what it is. They just need more help from the front office. So, I would be on the side of no, don't trade those two unless it is like you're getting like blown away by an offer. Then I'm okay with it. But unless you're getting your socks blown off, absolutely not trade those two. So, that's all I have here for the Twins, for the Target Field Talkers. We'll move on to the predictions that came off the board this week. Had 3 come off the board. First one is that Royce Lewis will hit multiple home runs in the next week. I believe he hit one in the first, or he hit 1 home run, and then I believe he hit 1 more in the first game against the White Sox, but that was obviously over a week after I had made this prediction. So that one is incorrect. I said Joe Ryan pitches 7+ innings in his next start. He did not. It was the start after that is when he went 7 innings. He pitched 5 against the Blue Jays on last Monday night. And then Byron Buxton homers in the next week, and he did. So those are my 3. Total correct now is at 16. I've predicted 61 total. That is good for 26%. The 3 going on the board this week. Joe Ryan will throw a complete game in the last month of this season or in 2026. And I don't specify which team he will do that with, just that he will throw a complete game either with the Twins the rest of this season I should say, I want to clarify too, this will be at the major league level. It will not be in the minor leagues. I don't foresee him getting sent down for any reason other than maybe an injury. And if he does get injured, they're not going to make him pitch a complete game in the minors. So I do want to clarify, though, just in case, this will be in the major leagues. Then second prediction is that Pablo Lopez is in the opening day starter for the Twins in 2026. And then final prediction is that Bailey Ober, whenever he pitches, starts next. He will be credited with the win. Not that the Twins will win. Bailey Ober will be credited with the win in his next start. All right, now on to the Nordic Report, the final team segment of this episode. Couple things happened. The Vikings made a trade. The Vikings officially announced their 53-man roster. This will not be the 53-man roster the entire season, but I want to go over at least the initial 53-man roster. And then they announced the captains, and we will look ahead to Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears. As for, let's talk about the trade really quick. The trade that went down that brought Adam Thielen back to the Vikings. The Vikings traded for Adam Thielen from the Carolina Panthers. They also received a conditional 2026 7th-round pick and a 2027 5th-round pick. The Panthers received a 2026 5th and a 2027 4th. So the Vikings basically just moved. They got Adam Thielen, and then they moved back in both this draft and next draft, and that is basically how that trade. They moved back 2 rounds in this draft and 1 round in next draft. Is basically how that works out. Thielen also took a $2 million pay cut, and so his salary is at $5 million. So it is a lot easier for the Vikings to swallow this year with the salary cap space. But yeah, so Adam Thielen will be back. He will likely be the wide receiver 2 on Monday night against the Bears, with Naylor possibly being out and Jordan Addison being suspended. We know those two. Addison will for sure be out because of the suspension, and we have not seen the injury report just yet. But Naylor has been dealing with a hand issue, so he could be out for the game against the Bears. If we look at the 53, let's take a look at this and go. I've got some graphics up here. We've got special teams, we've got defense, and we've got the offense too. So as I realized I didn't put up the offense in this real quick, but we will go over all 3 teams and go over some thoughts too. As again, I gotta make sure that this is right here. Trying to adjust on the fly here. This is a peek behind the curtain for on the production side. Adjusting all the graphics on the fly. And we are ready. So let's start off with the we'll go special teams, and then we will go defense, and then we will go to the offense. So the special teams here only consist of 3 positions that are specific to the special teams: the long snapper, Andrew DePaula, the kicker, Will Reichert, and the punter, Ryan Wright. So that's none of those were really any surprises. Those were the 3 expected. The only person that was maybe in jeopardy was Ryan Wright as the punter, and that is because of Oscar Chapman. He was holding kicks for Will Reichert this training camp and preseason, but he was the only one that was really in the mix of these 3 to not be on the 53-man roster. If we go over to the defense, this one has a lot more positions. I've got them broken, like this special teams graphic, I've got them broken down by position. And then I also put the number you will see is the number of players at each position group. So the defense here, the D linemen, they kept 6 defensive linemen. Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, those are going to be the 2 starters. Those 2 were very much just almost guaranteed locks to make the team already. They got Ty Ingram Dawkins, Levi Drake Rodriguez, Jalen Redmond, and Elijah Williams. Now, some of those guys are going to be rotating in with Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, but Allen and Hargrave will be the 2 starters on that part. If we go to the outside linebacker, aka edge rusher, that's the 2 same, 2 different names for basically the same position group. They kept 5: Chaz Chambliss, Jonathan Grenard, Bo Richter, Dallas Turner, and Andrew Van Ginkel. I think Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel are going to be the 2 starters on that, as the outside guys on that line. Dallas Turner is at least should, knock on wood, his development is progressing. Should be rotating in, and then probably Bo Richter will be rotating in a little bit too. Inside linebacker, Blake Cashman, Austin Keys, Kobe King, Ivan Pace Jr., and Eric Wilson. Cashman and Pace Jr. will be the 2 starters over there. And yeah, as for the cornerbacks, Dwight McLaughlin Jr., Byron Murphy Jr., Jeff Okuda, and Isaiah Rogers. Byron Murphy Jr., Jeff Okuda, and Isaiah Rogers will likely be the starters on that side. Byron Murphy Jr., the only established person on this in this position group. He's Pro Bowler last year, fantastic. He got a big contract this offseason, definitely deserves it. But he is, clearly the best cornerback on this roster right now. As for the safeties, they kept 5: Theo Jackson, Josh Metellus, Harrison Smith, Taveri Thomas, and Jay Ward. I'm guessing that Metellus and Smith are going to get most of the snaps, with Theo Jackson working in a little bit, and then Jay Ward is the 4th on the depth chart. So that is the defense. We will move on to everybody's favorite, the offense. Even though I think this Vikings defense, especially this front 7, which is the D linemen, the outside linebackers, and the inside linebackers, I think those are going to be the biggest. They're going to be the ones that make the biggest impact on this defense this upcoming year. So moving on to the offense, though. Again, same kind of setup as the graphic on the defense, so just be prepared for that. The O-line will start there. They kept 10 offensive linemen, and again, any of this will be talked about more in or changing more throughout the season too. This is just the initial 53-man roster. But 10 offensive linemen: Blake Brandel, Christian Darrisaw, Will Fries, Joe Huber, Donovan Jackson, Michael Juergens, Ryan Kelly, Brian O'Neill, Walter Rouse, and Justin Skull. So we know for sure 4 of the starters in week 1, or at least what should be 4 of the starters in week 1, that being left guard, Donovan Jackson, center, Ryan Kelly, right guard, Will Fries, right tackle, Brian O'Neill. The only question mark about the week 1 starting lineup for this offensive line is if Christian Darrisaw's injury will keep him out or not. And again, we will get that injury report tomorrow on Thursday. But Christian Darrisaw will be the starter if he is healthy. If he is not, it will likely be Blake Brandel. Blake Brandel is kind of a Swiss Army knife of the backup offensive lineman. He can play a lot of the offensive line positions, so look for him to be the one that steps in if one of the offensive linemen goes down. And so he will likely be the Swiss Army knife moving all over the place. I believe he was the one that was going to take over at left tackle if they had not made that trade with Jacksonville when Christian Darrisaw went down. He was the one that came in that game he went down in. So let's go over to the tight ends. Kept 3 tight ends. TJ Hawkinson, obvious. Josh Oliver, obvious. And then Ben Urasek. So that one was not as obvious. That was one of the battle competition positions, but they did keep Ben. Running back, one of these, the top one, is very much a surprise, but not as much of a surprise, too, when you think about it. They kept 4 running backs: Ty Chandler, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, and Xavier Scott. The Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are going to be getting most of the workload. It's split between them. And the other 2 are more there for depth and potential special teams units as returners. But Ty Chandler made this team, I believe, because as of right now, CJ Ham is on the injured reserve list. That is why you also don't see him on here. I think Ty Chandler is going to be the one that gets cut when CJ Ham returns from IR. And again, that could be this week when the injury report comes out tomorrow. As for the wide receivers, again, very thin wide receiver room. And again, I guess I made this before the Thielen trade because Thielen did make the initial roster. Or not, I guess not the initial roster, but he is on the roster. So this is the initial roster. So Ty Felton, Justin Jefferson, Tim Jones, Jalen Naylor, Miles Price. Thielen is part of this wide receiver room. I just don't have him on the graphic there. Also, they can keep 5 here and not have Jordan Addison on this because he is suspended. So Jordan Addison does not take up a roster spot on the Vikings 53. So Jordan Addison will also be a part of this wide receiver room when he is back from his suspension. So then the quarterback room, arguably the most important position in all of sports, and the most position in all of sports. 3 quarterbacks: Max Brosmer, JJ McCarthy, Carson Wentz. It should be McCarthy QB1, Wentz QB2, Brosmer QB3, at least to start the season. That should be what the depth chart looks like. But yeah, that is the Vikings 53-man roster. We'll go over a couple more things here before we go on to predictions. Vikings captain. The captains are Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, J.J. McCarthy, Brian O'Neill, Jonathan Grenard, Josh Metellus, Harrison Smith, and Andrew DePaula. So they do have 8 captains, 4 on the offensive side with Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, J.J. McCarthy, and Brian O'Neill. 3 on the defensive side: Jonathan Grenard, Josh Metellus, and Harry the Hitman. And then Andrew DePaula, the long snapper. Looking ahead, they are playing the Chicago Bears, at Soldier Field on Monday Night Football. That is I believe a 7:15 start time kickoff on Monday night. All time, the Vikings have the winning record against the Bears, 68-57-2 all time. So the Vikings look to make this 69-57-2 on Monday. I do believe that very much the key to this game is the defense. I think both these quarterbacks are going to be a little bit more conservative in this game because it's obviously J.J. McCarthy's first game in the NFL that actually means something. And it is Caleb Williams' first game in the NFL with an actual competent head coach. And I think he's still learning the actual playbook from Ben Johnson. So I think that the offenses could be a little bit more conservative on Monday night. And so the defenses are going to be the main focus. And I think the Vikings have a far better defense because of that front 7 that we just talked about than the Chicago Bears. So I do think that this could be a barn burner. Could be like a very low scoring, close game. But I do think the Vikings do end up winning this game and starting the season off 1-0. We will move on to predictions. I didn't have any come off the board from this past week. We will move on to the let me double check that. Off the board, Nordic Report. No, I did not, and I realize now I am doubling up on a prediction, so I will change the graphic. I will change it in my notes here. Okay, I changed it in the notes. The graphic is not going to be updated, but I will tell you the thing I am changing about it. So we'll go on to the graphic, the predictions coming on the board here. So first prediction is that the Vikings defense allows less than 10 points against the Chicago Bears on Monday night. The Vikings scored 21 plus points against the Bears on Monday night. And this is the doubled up one. I said last week that the Vikings would win the season opener, and now I am saying that the Vikings beat the Bears, but I don't want to double up on predictions and give myself either 2 points or 2 incorrections. So I will say I will make this one more specific and say the Vikings will beat the Bears by more than 3 points. So a field goal will not, like a last second field goal will not win this game, or at least tie it for the Bears. So it'll be 4 or more point victory for the Minnesota Vikings. All right, moving on to the final segment of today's show, the power ranking segment, where we power rank a top 10 list of something to do with Minnesota sports. This segment, we will be doing the top 10 media personalities in Minnesota sports. If you want to give me a topic of what you want to see me rank next, you can either comment down below. You can email the show at frozennorth30 at gmail.com. You can also, somehow reach out on social media too. You do it however you want to reach out. I take topics from people and have used them in the show before. So please feel free to reach out with your own ideas. But today we will be doing the Minnesota media personalities. So coming up here first, the first one we have is Audra Martin. She is the Twins sideline reporter. She's the Wild's pre and post game show host, at least one of them. And so she is coming in at number 10 here on this list. Number 9, we go to another pre and post game show host as well as a play-by-play. She's the Lynx play-by-play and the Minnesota Timberwolves pre and post game show host, Marnie Gellner, coming in at number 9 here. Number 8, we're going back to hockey, back to side rink, I guess, reporter here. We are going to Kevin Gorg coming in here at number 8 on this list. Number 7, we're alternating sports, going back to basketball, going back to a play-by-play. Number 7 is Michael Grady, the Minnesota Timberwolves play-by-play announcer on TV. He's doing some other national games this year too, so he's getting the recognition he deserves nationally. But if we go to number 6 here, we're sticking with the play-by-play voices and going to Corey Provis, the current Twins play-by-play announcer. He is, again, fantastic at his job. He was the radio. They brought him over to the TV side of it, And again, he is absolutely fantastic at what he does with the Twins. We're moving on to the top 5 here, as it looks like something got rearranged here. Sorry about that. Let me get this up to full size. The picture behind this is on the smaller end now, so let me get that fully adjusted so we can see it better. All right, there we go. Sorry, some technical difficulties, because I've seen a lot of behind the scenes stuff today, but we have this one now up for you. Coming in at number 5 is Minnesota Wild insider Michael Russo, breaking a ton of Wild news. And again, I might be biased as a hockey fan, but I think he is absolutely fantastic at what he does, and he focuses on the Wild specifically. We're going to the Star Tribune. Number 4 here, we got Patrick Royce. Royce, he's, is a radio host, Star Tribune columnist. Again, absolutely fantastic. Number 3 here, some might say it's initially a little low, but we got 2 legends at 1 and 2. Number 3 is Paul Allen, Vikings radio play-by-play and host of the Paul Allen Show on KFXN radio. But again, some people might say he's too low on this. He should be 1 or 2, but 1 and 2 are absolute legends in their own right, and I couldn't put Paul Allen above them. But Paul Allen, again, not trying to take anything away from him, but he is absolutely fantastic. So number 2 here, we go back to the Star Tribune as Star Tribune columnist Sid Hartman. Again, absolute legend at the Star Tribune in the Minnesota sports world. Number 1, legend in Minnesota sport or Minnesota hockey world, legend in the hockey world just in general. But coming in at number 1, he was one of the voices of the high school hockey state tournament. Again, hockey bias coming through here. But number 1 is Lou Nanne. Lou Nanne comes in as my number 1 media personality in Minnesota sports. So, to recap, Lou Nanne 1, Sid Hartman 2, Paul Allen 3, Patrick Royce 4, Michael Russo 5, Corey Provis 6, Michael Grady 7, Kevin Gorg 8, Marnie Gellner 9, and Audra Martin 10. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the 301 Show, episode 35. Again, I want to thank you all for watching this episode. It really means a lot. It would really help me out a lot if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below. You can email the show. Again, frozennorth30@gmail.com. You'll see it down below in the scroller. You can also find it in the description down below too. Reach out any topics you want me to go over where you might agree or disagree with me on anything I discussed today. So again, reach out and we will see you next time. Peace.